if anything? What would you say to a young Black man or a middle-aged Black man who may feel like, you know, he's not a leader in the making. He may feel like he might be questioning his value, questioning his worth, just like you were when you were starting to fill out the applications or being in a position that you were, and you were saying maybe, you started to question your own worth and value. What would you say to that man? What would you say to that, that Black man, that male who's saying, is there a purpose for me outside of the street? So what would you say to him?
Don't allow your present circumstances to dictate where you can end up. Don't allow your present circumstances to dictate where you can go and what you can be.
Hey, Entreleader, and happy Wednesday. Welcome back to part 2 of last week's segment with our very special guest. If you can remember, we had some very, very, very good knowledge that was dropped on us in the Leaders Lab last week, and we're going to pick right up where we left off. Just in case you need a reminder, this is where we left off last week. This 5-second conversation that happened in March. What was going on in your mind? Like when he came in to say that, was it like, okay, or he's playing, or maybe, taking over this school, or what was your thought process? Like, what was your thinking at that time?
I honestly didn't have a thought process. I was thinking we're in the 3rd round of observations. So I need to get down here and knock out these observations and put them into Nieces and do these post conferences with these teachers. And because I'm systematic. I have to, work down my list to get things done. But, but we were good at Weldon High School because, I was taking care of discipline. I was rolling with a lot of things. I was working with a really good principal, Michelle Burton. And, we were having a good time. We were doing a lot of great things. So in June, I get this call and I go down and I interview for this job and I don't hear anything. So I said, okay. So I don't go to the board meeting in June, the end of June. And Michelle goes. She's principal of Weldon High School. And Michelle sends me a text that night. And it says, bye-bye, Stu. They sending you to the middle school. Just like that? Okay.
Oh, okay. No, they didn't let you know.
So before Dr. Bracy could call me, Michelle had already texted me and told me. So then by the time he called me, I had heard from 3 other people that I was going to. And so he called me and told me.
Wow.
So, that started my stint at Weldon Middle School that went for 5.5 years. And basically what happened to me at Weldon is that I got to a place where I could not grow anymore. And that's another sign. So when discontent sets in, it's time to move. But also when you can no longer grow, it's time to move. All right.
Wow.
So I had taken up, we had grown the school. And when I took over that school, it was a bottom 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, bottom 10 school in the state of North Carolina. And we grew to a school that exceeded growth 3 consecutive years. So every year I was there, our proficiency went up, our growth went up. We never had a year that we didn't grow 80% or better of the students there. So, I was coaching teachers. I was coaching adults like he had told me to. And Dr. Bracy.
So you started off coaching kids and then you moved into coaching adults now.
Coaching adults. Yep. But by the time I was getting toward the end of my tenure in Weldon, we were, I didn't have anybody I could lean on to help me grow. Those people had cycled out the district. So I was becoming a go-to person. So new principals would come in, they would call me. And I didn't mind helping them because I always an open book to help anybody, but I needed somebody that could help me grow. So at that time, it was around November, early November of 2019. I got a text from a friend of mine, Shauna Brown. She had been at Weldon. And she was also one of the people. She was another one of those people that was in my initial interview, that assistant principal
Okay.
interview. And Shauna knew me because Shauna worked with our mama over in Northampton County.
Okay.
So Shauna had left Weldon to become the EC director in Warren County. And literally, Shauna sent me a text and it went something like this. She said, "Hey, Stu, we have a chief something or something on the website." Got a what? A chief
What?
something or something on the website.
Uh-huh.
So I was sitting there and I was like, okay. So I went in and this was, I can't remember if it was Veterans Day. It was somewhere around there. So, you know, we had a holiday coming up soon the next day. And so I went on and I saw it. Chief Operations Officer. Okay. Now I had interviewed in Warren County the previous summer for Warren County High School.
Okay. For
Okay.
principal,
For the
superintendent,
principalship.
or
For the
okay,
principalship.
okay, okay.
I was offered the job and I turned it down because I said to myself, if I want to be a principal, I'll be a principal in the school that I built that's running on autopilot. And that's
Okay.
this, my school was running on autopilot. And I had gotten to the place where I was asking myself the question, can I help this school go any higher? Because, you know, I think we've achieved as much as we can achieve in my time. So
Wow.
I started to look. So I went ahead and I applied for the job.
Okay.
And I got a email about an interview. I said, okay. They want to interview me at 1:00 on a Tuesday. And I said, I can't come to Warren County at 1:00 on Tuesday because
Because
I
you got a
literally,
job.
I had, not only do I have a job, I literally have a state team in my school that's doing reaccreditation. So they're doing interviews and I'm hosting the state team. They said, no problem. We can do it virtually. I said, okay. So I told my assistant principal, I said, look, man, I need you to do me a favor. I said, from 1 to 2, I need you to entertain the state team, get them whoever they need, the data that they need. He said, I got you. No problem. I said, I'm be in my office. Okay. I interviewed for the job in my office on Tuesday. On Friday of that week, there was a field trip. And 5th grade and 7th grade went on the field trip because Eric
Okay.
was in the 7th grade and I was waiting for
Okay.
him. So they come back off the field trip. I'm sitting in the front office like I always did, sitting there answering the phone, and my cell phone is sitting there. And so my assistant principal comes back off the field trip and one of my lead teachers comes back off the field trip. So we're sitting there and my phone lights up and it's the HR director at Warren County. They both know that name because that person worked in Weldon.
Okay.
So I get up, I go to the back door. It's a Friday. They extend the offer for the job. They say, this is what your salary is going to be, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay. I said, let me go home, talk to my wife. I'll give you an answer. They said, all right. So I came back. The two of them were standing there. They said, Stewart, what's going on? So I told them what was going on. So my assistant principal, who was a veteran, who was an older fella, he looked at me. He said, take the job.
Wow.
Wasn't expecting that.
Wow. What, you trying to get rid of me? No, no. It's like, you trying to get rid of me? No, no.
But it works out, you know, it goes back to the steps again. It goes back to the steps and being ordered. So I went home. I talked to Christina. She said, okay. She was fine with it. I called the girl back that night and said, look, I'm going to take the job. And she was like, I didn't think you were going to take it because you didn't take the last one. No problem. I'm going to take the job. So that one happened. They had a board meeting. That was Friday. They had a board meeting Tuesday. I got approved. That one happened in 9 days. So from the time that I applied to the time that I was board approved, 9 days. So, okay. So I worked in Warren County. I worked under a wonderful leader in Warren County, Dr. Mary Young. Dr. Young, of course, we started in Warren County, and then a couple months later, COVID hit. So then we were leading the district, through uncharted territory with COVID. And at the same
So
time that
you were leading your district virtually now.
we were virtual, we were in person a lot. We worked a lot at central office coming in and things like that. But yeah, we were doing a lot of stuff virtually. At the same time that this hit in March of that year, Dr. Young, um, she was funny because she said she would say slick things to me. She would say, "Yeah, Stewart, this dude applying for this job, he go to church like you go to church." I said, "What do you mean by that, Dr. Young?" She said, "Oh, you know what I'm talking about." I said, "Dr. Young, what are you talking about?" She said, "You know them Pentecostal churches. Y'all stay up in there all day." I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay." So, and Dr. Young, see, when you talk about the Lord ordering your steps and putting people in your path for a reason, in March of that year, Dr. Young came down with breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
So she was leading the district while going through chemo, while going through a lot of things.
Wow.
So one of the things that the Lord put on my heart for Dr. Young was that I used to send her a scripture every day. So I told her, I said, we're going to pray for you, but I'm going to send you a scripture every day.
Was
So
she a believer too? Is she
yes,
like a Christian believer? Okay,
she
okay,
was. She
okay.
was. So she would tell me that, she was coming, she was living in Warrenton, but she was coming to church in Durham. And, so we
Okay.
were talking about things. And, so we were, she would come to me every now and then. We were always about the work of the district, and working.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
sometimes she would say, we need to pray about this. I was like, okay. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
So great leader. And then we just began to encounter craziness in Warren County.
Okay. Craziness.
Yeah, that's we're just gonna leave it at craziness.
Okay.
And she wound up leaving the district. She wound up leaving the district.
This is during COVID.
This is after. So this was
Oh,
actually
okay.
this year. In June of this
Okay.
year,
Okay.
a little before June, she announced that she was gonna leave. And
Wow.
so it was really a shock to me because she was, one of the driving forces. She was the person that was helping me to grow. She was, great part of it. And we had a what we thought was a very solid executive cabinet.
Okay.
So, she left. Um, and long story short, on Warren County, when she left, um, I started looking because the Lord started to reveal things to me. I started to
Okay.
find out, some behind the scenes things, and I have found out that sometimes the higher you go, the more you need to be grounded, the more you need to pray, because sometimes it becomes more politically driven and dirty. And
Yeah.
there were forces
Yeah.
that were really working against me. So I started to look for jobs. And because of some of the things that happened in Warren County, I had actually taken a mental and emotional beating. So I started to question my own abilities of whether could I do this, could I do that. So as I started to apply for jobs, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. So I remember in May, late May, this was during um, Memorial Day.
Okay.
I was in Williamsburg. We had gone to Williamsburg, just a little family getaway. I had really begun to try to spend as much time with my boys as possible because I knew AJ was going to college, and I knew that life was going to change forever. Once you go to college, life changed forever.
It does.
So I get a text from Dr. Young. I send her a scripture. She sends me a text, and she says she would do this often. She would say, DPI is looking for coaches. But this particular day, she sent me a few, and one of them was Chapel Hill Carrboro is looking for a chief operations officer. So I said, okay. So I just started filling out applications. So
Okay.
I filled out an application for a job in Edgecombe County, um, a job with DPI,
What now? What is DPI? For
the
those
Department
who
of
are
Public
not familiar.
Instruction. North Carolina
Oh,
Department of Public Instruction. So this is the
okay.
department that oversees education for the entire state.
Okay. Okay.
So in Chapel Hill, Carrboro. So I filled out, several applications, and I filled one out for Weldon City Schools. Weldon had a position.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
filled out 4 applications. So I went through the application process, and once I got everything in June, we went to 4-day weeks in Warren County. So we worked Monday through Thursday, Fridays off. So I got a call from Chapel Hill Carrboro City Schools. And they said, we would like to interview you this Friday at 10 o'clock. I said, okay. So from my home in my wife's she room, I did the interview with Chapel Hill
Mm-hmm.
Carrboro. And when I got online, I was actually thrown off my game because there was like 16 people online in this panel interview. And I was like, so I was expecting
Okay. Like 16 faces all across the whole.
all across the screen and people peppering you with questions. And, it was, so it took me a little bit to get my bearings about me. And I was like, actually, when I shut it down, I was like, I don't know about this one. So
Okay.
that was Friday, and about 4:30 Friday afternoon, I got a call back from the same girl, and she
The
said
same day.
the same day. She said, "We would like to meet with you in person, Mr. Stewart." What? Okay.
Wait a minute.
I'm so confused.
You were not
I
confident
just
that you
convinced
did
myself
well.
that this it didn't go bad, but I was trying to convince myself this is not going as well as I thought it would have been.
While you're going through the whole
Right,
interview process, you're like,
right,
this is not going.
right. So
That's not how this works.
right,
That's not
none
how
of
any of
this. So this is Friday, and they want me to come to Chapel Hill on Tuesday.
Wow.
And I said, oh, wait, I have a problem. I wasn't going to tell them what the problem was, but the problem was I was supposed to be in Edgecombe on Tuesday
For another
for
interview.
another interview. So I said, ma'am, I have an appointment at 3:30 on Tuesday. She said, no problem. Your appointment here is at 10. She said, and you'll be done in an hour. So I said, okay. So that Tuesday, I hopped in my wife's car because she got the newer car. And I drove the 2 hours from Roanoke Rapids to Chapel Hill. And I interviewed in person with the superintendent and her cabinet in the boardroom for
Wow.
an hour. And I thought it went well. I thought it went well.
Better than
Yes,
Friday.
better than Friday.
Okay.
So then
Okay.
I hopped in the car and I zipped on past Raleigh and rolled up 64 and went to Tarboro, and I interviewed at North Edgecombe.
Wow.
Excuse me, not North Edgecombe, but Edgecombe County
Uh-huh.
Central Office. And then I hopped back in the car and I drove to Warren County for a school board meeting that night. So
You was burning all the rubber on the road that day.
that Tuesday, I logged 300 miles on the road interviewing. By the time I got to the board meeting in Warren County, Edgecombe County had emailed me and wanted me to come back on Thursday for a second interview.
Wow.
Okay. I said, Lord, I don't know where I'm going, but it looks like I'm going somewhere.
You going somewhere.
I'm
No,
going
what is
somewhere.
it? I don't know. I don't know where y'all going, but y'all got to get up out of
Gotta
here.
get up
That
out
was
of
you.
here. So I, of course, agreed. I will come back on Thursday.
Wow.
Wasn't really feeling the Edgecombe job, but I knew I had to
Okay.
go. I knew I had to go.
Yeah.
So go to the board meeting. I go to Edgecombe Thursday. It goes fairly well, but I found out they knew who they wanted for their job already, and I wasn't comfortable with the job in particular. So they actually called me and offered me another job. And I said, no, thank you. I don't think I want to do that. I'm sorry. So they didn't offer me the job that I interviewed for, but they offered me another job. I said, nah.
Wow.
So at this time, this is now July, and I'm coaching the All-Star team. So I'm
Okay.
sitting at practice, and it's late June, early July. I get a call from the State Department, from DPI, and they say, Mr. Stewart,
Okay.
we want to interview you to be a coach. Basically, I was going to go in and be a coach for a principal and, help principals run their
Oh,
school,
okay.
improve their school.
Okay.
So I interviewed with them on a Friday morning. Now this interview I felt really, really good about. I was like, yeah, I knocked this one out the park. This is not a problem. I expect to
Okay.
hear from them. So actually we took AJ to orientation in Elizabeth City. This was the 7th and 8th of July, I remember. And I'm in orientation on the 7th, and Dr. Young, you know, she calls me up. She said, congratulations. I said, what? What are you talking about? She said, I just got the call from DPI. They were doing your reference checks. I said, really? She said, yeah. She said, you gonna get that job. All right. My former assistant principal calls me an hour after I get off the phone with Dr. Young. Hey, Stewart, you got that one. I just talked to Peyton. You got that job. Don't worry about it. I said, okay. All right. So, July 7th, I think I'm signed and delivered. I'm going to DPI.
Yeah.
So the next week I go to baseball practice. I'm sitting on a bucket at baseball practice, and the phone rings. It's Chapel Hill, Carrboro City Schools. And the HR officer says to me, she says, Mr. Stewart, I just wanted to follow up with you and let you know that the operations officer, she said, our team really loved you. She said, but you just didn't have the experience that we were looking for that position. She said, but we have a executive senior director of operations position if you would be interested in applying for that. She said, we make no promises, but you can interview. I said, okay. I'm saying okay because I was feeling pretty good at this point because I was figured I had the State Department job already.
Right,
So
right. But you were still willing to interview for this other position, even though you had this one. Okay.
Right. So that was Tuesday. Friday, I get a call from the girl in HR who I've talked to now 3 times. And she says, Mrs. Stewart, can you interview on Monday at 4:30? I was like, I got to go to work on Monday. I said, sure, I will. Okay. So I found me a secluded spot to interview on Monday.
Okay.
I interviewed for this job. Okay. Now, meanwhile, I've had 2 people say that I got the State Department job, but I hadn't heard from the State Department. Okay.
Okay.
So, and I've turned down the job in Edgecombe.
Okay.
So Tuesday, I interviewed Monday with Chapel Hill. Tuesday, I get a call from the HR director. She said, Mr. Stewart, want to congratulate you that you're the chosen person to be the senior executive director of operations, Chapel Hill, Carrboro City Schools. She said, this is your salary. This is that. This is that. I was like, wait a minute. Can you repeat all that again? Because,
don't just brush over that.
Right.
Don't just brush over that.
My mama had me when she was 16, and we used to live in the projects and stuff like that. And I ain't never heard numbers like this before. What you talking about? Okay. So she said to me, she put all this stuff together. She said, I need an answer by tonight. She said, because we have a board meeting tomorrow.
Wow.
She said, we want to take your name. So I said, okay. I said, I need to talk to my wife. Okay. Always my out. Talk to my wife.
I love it. So, Tina, he be putting it all on you.
Yeah. So at the same time, we had a bus accident that day in Warren County. Okay.
Wow.
We also, at that same point, I had 2 board members from another school district text me and say, are you interested in a job in our district? What? Okay. All right, Lord. I don't know what's going on. And I'm still waiting for the State Department, right? So I get on the phone. Who do I call? One person I know that prayed and gonna do something. Dr. Young. So I called Dr. Young up. We started talking. She said, oh no, we got to do something about this. We got to do that. She said, I said, Dr. Young, I didn't call you to do anything. She said, no. No. I said, okay. Yes, ma'am. So we get everything squared away. It was a long day in Warren County. So I'm coming home at like 6:30, 7 o'clock that night. I'm looking up in the sky and I'm saying, Lord, show me a sign. Lord, help me. Lord, I need some direction. I got people out the blue asking me, do I want a job? I got this.
How many offers do you have at this point, though?
So
it sounds like
on Tuesday there were like 3.
Okay.
So it was Chapel Hill, DPI, and this other school district.
Yeah.
And I'm praying, Lord, show me a sign. Lord, show me a sign. Lord, show me a sign. And so I get home, I sit my family down at the table because, you know, AJ's getting ready to leave for school. So he's feeling real grown. So we sit at the table, we talk. AJ's like, man, I don't care. You know, I'm leaving anyway. Cool. He's like, do you? So I was like, Eric, yeah. I said, Eric, what do you think, man? Eric's like, I'm down for whatever. I was like, really? I said, you're willing to? He said, I'm down for whatever. So I said, Christina, you know, and we were ignorant at that point to the fact that this could possibly be a life-changing move. Yeah, this is a life-changing move. So I'm going to tell you that you can talk yourself out of blessings. You can talk out of blessings. And I talked myself out of the blessing.
Jesus.
I typed the text and I declined the offer. And I could not hit send. I couldn't hit send on it. So I tried to get my wife to hit send on it. She wouldn't hit send on it. So finally, I hit send on the text to decline the offer. I ran and I jumped in the shower because I didn't want to cry out in the public. I wanted at least the water.
Right, you want to cry with the water hitting your face, so you don't know which one is. So you don't know which is shower or tears. Now, which offer was this that you declined? Because you had three. So which one?
This was the Chapel Hill offer.
Wow.
So I got out of the shower and I hear my phone binging, and then it rings. And when it rings, I see it's the HR officer. And at this point, I'm in no place to talk to her. So I don't answer. But then I read her text messages that she sent me. Okay. And when I read the 3 text messages and what they said, and I told Christina, I said, Christine, I would be an absolute fool to turn this down, wouldn't I? She was like, yeah, you'd be pretty stupid. I said, okay. So wife. Right. So I still was not set on this. I was still not set.
Why not? What was it about you? Was it a lack of confidence or just unsurety?
Because I think what I had been through in Warren County had kind of got me shattered. So I had to call. I called 2 people and put them on 3-way. You know, only 2 people I really trusted in Warren County. I called them and put them on 3-way. I said, y'all. No, I called Dr. Young first. I said, Dr. Young. She said, oh, no. She said, you got to go. She said, you have to take that. You have to do it. So then I called these 2 other folks. I said, y'all, they were packing me up, renting my house. I said, wait a minute. They said, no.
You ain't even accepted yet. They like, we're going to put your house on the market. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Wow.
It was, but I'm going to tell you how you can be blinded by your own foolishness. So I was waiting on DPI because I thought that was really the job that I wanted. Okay. And understand that DPI was a $26,000 raise for me.
Okay. Wow.
From what I was making in Warren County.
Wow. Okay.
The original Chapel Hill offer was $20,000 more than DPI. Yeah.
So a $46,000 raise.
And it actually went up from there. So,
wait, you got money? Give me $20. Cash at me $20. You got.
I would, but your nephew, every time I see him, he need money for something.
He asking for money. I know. College students always broke.
Always broke. But telling me stuff like, "Look, can you send me some money because I don't want my account to drop below $2,000." What?
I know.
I said, son, I didn't have $2,000 total the whole time I was in college.
I ain't had $2 when I was in college. And y'all know because I was always getting y'all money. I was always asking y'all for money in college. Wow.
So it was, it was just one of those things where the very next morning, I text the HR officer back and told her I would accept the offer. The next morning, DPI called me and said, we're going to put it in writing. They were 2 days late. They were 2 days too late. Had they called me Tuesday morning,
You would have took it.
I would have took it. But that's not what God had for me. That's not what
Thank
God
God
had
for
for me.
delays. Ooh, thank God for
And
delays.
it was
So you can get the
delayed
right
because there was something
thing.
right. There was something better for me. So, you know,
Who
so
are you preaching?
we went on family vacation, in July, and Eric had to play right at the end of July. That's right. And Eric had to play a baseball tournament in this area in Durham. So we started house hopping, after the
Wow.
first day. We drove from Williamsburg, drove to Durham. After his first game, we were riding around looking at houses that we had looked up. We was in all kind of neighborhoods. I was like, I don't know about this. We done looked at 6 houses and I ain't got a good feeling about anything. So I'm talking
Wow.
about this at work, and somebody that I work with says, Stu, I got a friend that's a realtor in that area. We went to college together. I said, for real? She said, can I text him your number? I said, sure. So this guy texted me back late that night. He said, look, let's get together. I said, okay. So we set up a day on a Thursday. Christina and I gonna ride down here. He texted me that day. He said, look, man, he said, I only got the go ahead for one house. He said, let me work on this and we'll see what we can do. He said, maybe we get together Sunday, which was fine because Eric was playing in Greensboro. So we had to come right
Okay.
back through here.
Okay.
So we said, okay, we're gonna meet at this house and we'll start from there. So we looked at 4 houses that day. And the first house that we met, we got here first. We were sitting outside waiting on him. And he had an issue at the front door with the lockbox. He couldn't get in with the code, and it was some. So we
Okay.
came in, we walked around. I said, this is a nice house. We went upstairs to the second floor. We went upstairs to the third floor. This is a nice house. And it's a smart house. It talk to you and do all kind of stuff like that.
Got your
Right.
technology running your whole world.
Right. So I even heard him say he was coming down from the third floor. He said, "That's a nice house." It is, ain't it? Ain't it? That bro, man, ain't it? So that was on Sunday. That was on a Sunday. We moved into the house 2 weeks after that. 2 weeks after that. It's
Listen.
when I've found in my life when God got things for me, they happen fast. They happen fast.
Quick with the
And
quickness.
so I'm working out my days at Warren County and still working and still doing stuff. And one of the people in my department called me up and they said, Mr. Stewart, what are you doing in Chapel Hill? I said, I'm going to be the Senior Executive Director of Operations. He said, well, you might want to check the website. I said, what do you mean? He said, you might want to check the organizational website. So I checked the website and I noticed that the facilities director is now the Senior Executive Director of Operations, and I was the Interim Chief Operations Officer. I said, oh, okay. All right.
All right.
So, okay, Lord, I will do that, and have no problem with it. And walk in that role and do what I need to do in that role. So, I'm still thinking and understanding and knowing that the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and that this is a different
Wow.
world, a different opportunity, a different time. But at the same time, it's for me. It's for
Yeah.
me.
It's your time. This
It
is
is.
your
It
time.
is. It is. And your story is not the same as everybody else's story, and it's not the
Yeah.
same as everybody else's time. So you can't
Yeah.
um compare yourself to everybody else. You can't
Yeah.
look at everybody. You have to grow in your season. And I think back to, if I didn't have the disappointment of not being the Roanoke Rapids football coach, I would have never gained the
Yeah.
experience of teaching in the county. I would have never gained the experience of learning how to reach children of color that took place in Weldon. I would have never had the
Yeah.
testimony of being able to move a low performing school that the state was about to take over. I had
Wow.
state coaches. I had state coaches in my school for every subject area. I had a principal coach. I had people, and by the time I was finished there, my principal coach was one of the people who was telling me, it's time for you to go. because you can't take the
Wow.
school any higher because you've done a phenomenal job. I had people telling me, look, you've done such a good job with the data and stuff here. Will you come and speak at this data conference for other principals? Will you,
Wow.
do that kind of stuff? And had I not done those things, then the operations portion wouldn't have opened
Yes.
up. It wouldn't have opened
Yes.
up. So, I'm to a place now, and I'm like, okay, Lord, wherever you take me, whatever you do, I trust you. I
Yeah.
understand. But it all goes back to the same things. Building relationships, accountability, the coaching model. They laugh at me because I would cook. When I was a principal, I used to cook for my staff. So I would feed them, on breakfast and breakfast and things like that. And people say, "Why you cook for your staff?" I said, "I used to feed them before I got on them." I said, because
Yeah.
I would fatten them up before I stabbed them because they didn't run as
Uh-huh.
fast.
You fatten them up for the slaughter.
Right. Yeah, they didn't run as fast. So, but I take that same thing with me. So when I was in Warren County as Chief Operations Officer, I would cook for central office. There was,
Wow.
30 folks in central office. We would do breakfast, we would do lunch. I had people that would do it with me. We did department stuff. Um, so now, I'm in central office with 100 people in central office, and
You
so
finna order out. You better order
it's,
out this time.
we have an outstanding child nutrition department that makes
Yeah.
outstanding meals. So
Yeah.
yes, we
So
have
you don't have to
graduated.
cook no more.
I don't have to cook anymore. I don't have to cook. I
You
can't
moving
cook.
on up.
Yeah, I can't cook for that many folks. So, but the thought is still there. The thought is still there, but the
Yeah.
execution of the thought takes on different. So sometimes we learn that even though we want to do things in a certain way, after a while
Mm.
the execution has to be different. Once you arrive at a certain place, the execution is different. Um,
Mm.
you can't react the same way. You might be just as upset, but you can't react the same way. You can't carry
Mm.
things out the same way because the execution has to be different from
But that
where you
speaks to
started
the
from.
character of the person.
It does.
Yeah,
It
that
does.
speaks to the character of the person.
Right.
So, as in your experience,
Hmm.
which we have just, I mean, and some of you probably think, oh, you're his sister, so you know this. No, many of these things, like, I didn't know. I mean, I knew that my brother had this job, and y'all know I'm all the way in China, so I'm over here living life and trying to, as you see, trying to do something with my life here. But so as like a lot of these things that you've just shared with us today has, I mean, they're so impactful, and you can see that you are an educational leader. Like I was sitting here as you were talking about coaching. I'm like, this man is the ultimate educational coach. Like, you are just the ultimate educator, because you went from coaching kids to coaching adults, coaching administrators. I mean, the ultimate coach. Like, that's your, if you were to ever rebrand yourself, you could call yourself the ultimate educational coach. I mean, because that's just what you've done.
Yeah.
But with that said, like, what is one characteristic? Because you've talked about not burning bridges,
Mhm.
and as you transition. And I mean, sometimes as a, not even just a black man, and not even just, as a black person, sometimes when we get burned by people, when we leave, we want to burn people too. I mean, because we're human.
Right.
So this question is actually twofold. This question is twofold. The first question is, what is one characteristic that you believe every leader, whether in education, whether in law, whether in management, whether in, whatever, what is one characteristic that you believe every leader should have? And then the second question is, how do you leave without burning bridges? Like, how do you make sure that when you leave a place, when it's your time to move on, that you do it in the right way? So the first one is the characteristic for every leader. And the second one is, like, how do you move on without, burning bridges?
Every good leader should positively invest in human capital. And,
Okay.
and the investment in human capital is the relationship building piece. We in education, as our teachers, and folks to build a solid rapport with children.
Okay.
But we need to learn to build solid rapport with one another. So it's not just, and I've learned myself. So one of the activities that we've done, was very unique since I've been in Chapel Hill, is we had to build a 5-part manual for how to handle ourselves. And so you
Okay.
find out who you are. And basically what I had to do was tell other people how they should approach me, how they should handle me. I'm a straight line thinker. I'm task oriented. So I have to do things on a checklist. Because
Okay.
I'm one of those people, sometimes I have the tendency to mow people down. I have that mow people down gene, because I need to get things done. But when
Yeah.
when you look at it, you say, okay, if I build proper relationships with people, I find out that everybody's not built the same way.
Yes.
So for that reason, my investment in human capital, one of the things that I look at, I always try to invest in the people around me and know that they are human, and figure out how they're doing. So you need to ask people about, you know, their home life. How are they feeling?
Mm.
Especially having gone through COVID. So a lot of
Yeah.
my conversations now are, how are you doing? Are you doing
Yeah.
okay? You know, are you in a good mental space? Are you in a good physical space? Take a
Yeah.
day. Take a day. When's the last time you took some time for yourself? And this was a conversation I
Mm.
just had with somebody the other day. Um, it's about the work, but we used to say this when I was in the school: hungry adults eat children. Okay. Um, because they're going to devour
Okay.
them because they're not right. So I used to say, when I was a principal, it was my job to take care of the adults, to make sure they were in a good space, because adults in good spaces make good teachers. Um,
Okay.
so now my directors, I have to make sure that they're in good spaces. So
Okay.
because they can lead their departments the right way, positive
Yeah.
influences. So I want them to model the good, positive parts of what I'm doing with them.
Okay.
And know, yes, the bottom line is, it's about the work, but it's also about the people behind the work. Because if you don't
Mm.
have people in a good mindset and a good mind frame, they can't get the work done. So every good
Yeah.
leader needs to invest in positive human capital.
Okay. And the second question,
Mhm.
how to transition without burning bridges?
That
Cause
is,
we be all up in our feelings. Let's just be
we
honest.
do, we
When
do.
people do us wrong, or I'm even if I'm only talking about the people who are done wrong and it's time for them to transition. I'm not talking about people who just be like, they just wake up and they decide to quit their job because it's Tuesday. They be like,
Right.
I don't like my job, I'm just quitting today. But I'm talking about the people who, like, you've done everything you're supposed to do. You are giving your all. You're giving your absolute best. But somehow, some way, you're still there's something that's it's time for you to move. It's time for you to move on. Something's not working right, and it's just it's that time. It's that season. So how do you do that without being in your feelings? I mean, because you've had to transition through some tough spots,
Hmm.
and now look at you. Like, look at where you are now. So how do you do that? Especially, I guess, coming from a black man standpoint. Like, how do you do that?
See the whole picture first.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's something that I've learned over time that a lot of people don't do. So when I'm coming from a place of hurt, my viewpoint is usually that place of hurt, and that's it.
Okay.
Step back and see if you can see the entire picture. Now, understanding the entire picture may help you to understand where other people are coming from. Okay.
Right.
And if I can understand somebody else's mindset or their point of view, I can better receive some things. Okay.
Okay.
It is not, you can't change the situation, but you can change your outlook on the situation.
And there we have it. Absolutely.
You can change your outlook on the situation, but if I stay solely in my viewpoint and I don't see the whole picture, okay? Now, seeing the whole picture may be the understanding that, Lord, these people are evil. They are working against me. Okay, but they may be pushing you into something better for you that you wouldn't step out to, because when we are comfortable, we have a sense of complacency and we don't look for anything. I've even learned this: comfort does not always evolve from positive. Sometimes
Mm,
you can be comfortable in a negative situation, but if you
come
convince
on.
yourself that you can take it, that you can go through it, you'll stay in it. So, in order to get out of that, you need to step back and see the whole situation and say, okay, Lord, am I being a dummy? I mean, there's, you know, um, and I know, when we in Chapel Hill, we talk about, being positive, and, we talk about equity. Like my superintendent the other day, somebody was the example for something. So she didn't call him a crash test dummy. She called him a crash
Mm-hmm.
test genius. But sometimes when I talk to myself, I like to be just more direct. Am I being stupid about this? I
Yeah.
may
Yeah.
be, but in order to do that, I have to step back away from me. Okay.
Right.
I have to step back away from me. So
Yeah.
who, I was about to turn down $46,000
Above.
where I was.
Yeah.
Who does
Yeah.
that? Who does that? But if
Mm.
you can make up enough reasons
Yeah.
to make yourself say anything. Um, so step back, see the whole picture, and then don't be afraid to step out and trust God. All right. I was listening to Joel Osteen this morning while I was cooking breakfast for everybody, because everybody was in my house this weekend down here in Durham. So that was really nice to have. It was the first time I really had my whole family down here on the weekend.
Yeah.
So I was cooking, I had the TV on, and I was listening to Joel. And Joel said, it's not faith if you can see the outcome. It's
Ah.
it's not faith if you can work the numbers and crunch them to come out with your desired outcome. Faith is not knowing how this thing is going to work out and still say, okay, Lord, I'm going to go.
Whew.
All right.
Whew.
Faith is saying, I don't have enough meal to make you bread, make you a cake, and make
Come
me a
on.
cake too. You
Come
know,
on, woman.
but the prophet saying, just make me a cake. You know, she wasn't even
Now,
in
see,
her
let me
food.
tell you something. Let me tell you something. That was a good woman right there. Cause
She was.
it couldn't be me. Cause I would have been like, you want me to take my little bit of meal and make you a cake? I'm hungry too. Like you, I'm hungry too. But she did that. She sacrificed and she was obedient.
Right.
Obedience.
Bruh, you the same door you walked in, you need to walk out. You want me to take my last little bit and give it to you? But that's faith. That's the
Wow.
faith, not just to and she had faith on multiple levels, not just
Yeah.
for the food's sake, because we look at the cake. She had just enough of the cake. She also had to have the faith that this man was a true prophet
That's
and what
true.
he was saying was true.
That's
Because,
true.
you know, if she'd have said, "Oh no, this guy ain't telling me the truth," it would have broken down every other system and structure that dealt with her faith. So, of course, we know
Wow.
how it ended up, but
Yeah.
we have to get there. So it's not faith is wonderful with others, but we have to learn to let faith work for us. So if I can't allow faith to work for me, and step out, we know Abraham and Sarah were 190 and they had a baby. Oh, that's great, but what baby are we supposed to be giving birth to in our old age? In
Okay.
that old
Okay
age,
now.
of I'm too old to relocate. You know, I got 7 years before I retire. I'm gonna pick up and move to another
Mm.
city. Lord, you telling me I need
Mm.
to do this?
Mm.
But I only got 7 years to retire.
Wow.
Well, and then what I've learned is that being in it, Lord, okay, where we going from here?
Yeah.
because I don't know where we
Right.
gonna go from here. Because
Right.
I'm fine. You got me here. I'm good. But I'm also at a point now that if I can trust you to get to this point, I can trust that you'll drive me wherever I need to be. And so,
It's like the faith to follow.
right.
It's basically the faith to follow.
And a lot of people are perfectly fine with faith to sit. They will sit on that faith and say, okay, I'm good at this. I'm fine. I'm fine with it. And I'm not saying that you're not blessed in doing that. But what I'm saying is, what if there is more that you could possibly be missing out on because
Yeah.
you won't step up and take that opportunity to follow?
Wow, wow, wow. Listen, this has been an amazing episode. I'm telling you the truth. I'm looking like I just looked down at the timer and
Yeah,
I was like, we've been chatting for a while. I mean, but
for a long
it's
time.
been good. It's
Mhm.
been good. And honestly, send somebody to go pick your mama up off the floor because she over there crying, speaking in tongues right now, like having church service right now. Because a lot of I mean, for those of you who are watching the video portion and you see me with a pen in my hand, it's because I am taking notes. You don't sit under wisdom and not get all of these notes. I mean, so many things we talked about today, life lessons from athletics and talking about being discontent and knowing when it's time to move, the emotional attachments that you end up creating as an educator and how to manage those, to how to manage those emotions and talking about not burning bridges. Listen, in seasons of transition, this is so important, so important. And one of the things I love that you said today was that the higher you go, the more grounded you need to be.
Mhm.
The higher you go, the more grounded you need to be. I mean, and it's just it's so much. I mean, I literally, I mean, my handwriting is kind of one of the ones that kind of look like a little serial killer. It's like, you just be chicken scratching all over the place, but this is legible for me. I am, man, this is just, I'm just so full, because you never know when a transition is going to come. You never know when your turn is next for transition. And if that's the case for some of you who may be watching right now, I want you to be encouraged, especially, yes, the segment is called Black Men Making Moves, and you see the moves that the Mr. Stewart has made from the beginning all the way until now. And I want you to be encouraged. I want you to be encouraged. And so as a final thought, Mr. Stewart, what would you say, if anything, what would you say to a young Black man or a middle-aged Black man or any type, any male right now who may feel like, you know, he's not a leader in the making. He may feel like he might be questioning his value, questioning his worth, just like you were when you were starting to fill out the applications or being in the position that you were, and you were saying maybe, you started to question your own worth and value. What would you say to that man? What would you say to that, that Black man, that male who's saying, is there a purpose for me outside of the street? So what would you say to him?
Don't allow your present circumstances to dictate where you can end up. Don't allow your present circumstances to dictate where you can go and what you can be. No one comes from the perfect situation. Nobody comes from the typical situation and winds up where they want to be. You have to learn to press through, to fight through. Um, I could use plenty of early life examples and tell you, oh man, I can't do this. I should have wound up a different way, but it's by the grace of God and surrounding myself with people that can help you to grow. That's
Yeah.
another key to this. You have to. A friend of mine posted on Facebook right here recently. I think it was this past weekend, and she said that if you have 5 broke friends, you'll be the 6th one. You
Yeah.
have to surround yourself with people where you want to go, and not just around people where you're presently at. There must be room for you to grow. So, it's some of the things that I've been through in life help to keep me grounded. Um, my mama had me when she was 16 on her 16th birthday. That's something that helps
Yeah.
keep me grounded. That,
Yeah.
I will never be high minded because I can remember where I came from. You know, I can
Wow.
remember that when I got married in May of '99, in June, my wife and I didn't have enough money to pay our rent,
Wow.
375. Okay. So it's
Wow.
those things like that that will keep you grounded. Um, but those circumstances at that time didn't dictate to us where we could end up. You know,
Yeah.
it didn't end up in 2001 when my wife had a miscarriage in April of 2001. That situation didn't dictate to us that we would never have any kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we'd have lived in that situation, we wouldn't have the 15-year-old and the 18-year-old now.
Yeah.
But, so you can't allow those things to sit on you and choke the expectancy out of you that's there.
Wow.
So in any black male or anybody that is looking to move, one, it's never too late. It's never too late for you to move. It's never too late for you to be Abraham and Sarah and have that baby, that promised child. But at the same time, once you know the promise, you got to start moving in it. You got to start moving it. My thing, and I have a friend of mine who started a new job this week, and so she called me for a lot of advice and things like that. And what I told her, when it comes to jobs, I look at them like doorknobs.
Okay.
I pray, I apply, and then I start turning doorknobs. And
Okay.
if the door opens up, I believe it's time for me to walk through it. If
Yes.
the door is locked, and that's how I pray. I said, Lord, if this door is not for me, don't let me be able to open it.
That's
But
what
I have to be able
listen.
to walk
I
and
say
turn.
that.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. But I'm going to turn that doorknob because that's putting faith into motion for me. So,
That's that actionable faith.
that's right. So when the Bible says that, faith without works is dead, the turning of the doorknob is your works, you know.
Wow.
And then when the door opens, having the good sense to walk through it. Because don't talk yourself out of it and say, I don't know what's on the other side of the door. You still got to walk through it.
Well, I don't know if I've been blessed or rebuked or all of the above, but it was good. I mean, wow, this has been so good, so good, and I can't thank you enough for this. I remember I was like, I want to ask Dre if he'll be on the podcast, like, because if I'm gonna do this, if I'm gonna do this series, Black Men Making Moves, like, I definitely have to get like the most influential, aside from my daddy, the most influential black man in my life that I know who's been making moves, not just in the black community though. Like, that's one of the things that I do appreciate about our upbringing is that wherever we go, because of how we've been raised and how we've been
Mhm.
educated, the way wherever we go, we can be with the black community, or we can be,
Mhm.
in the white community, the brown community, where we can just be in multicultural communities and still, one, not lose our identity, and not lose our influence.
Right.
And so I'm so grateful for that. But yeah, I said, let me see. And when you said, yeah, I was like, I'm moving on
Well,
up.
and one thing that you should really know is that how proud of you I am. I am extremely proud of you and the things that you have
Aw.
accomplished and how you have stepped out and you have put faith in action. And you've done so many wonderful things that I'm extremely proud of you. Part of the reason that I started down the PhD role is because I watched you get a doctorate. So, I'm really proud of a lot of the things that you have been able to do and accomplish. And I used to joke You went to China, and I used to say I live in Roanoke Rapids. I don't want to even ride the Rocky Mountain. Yeah, and that's how
And
I
now
is.
where you at?
Right. So it's one of those things, but yeah, it's putting faith into works, and if people only knew some of the struggles that
Yeah.
that you have, and understanding that greatness does not come without a struggle. It doesn't.
That
So, and it can be physical, it can be mental, it can be both. If you say you want to be great, you realize what you're saying, step back, see the whole picture, and
that's
realize
right.
what that requires. Because if you want to be great, you got to move from your current situation, your current address. It's not going to allow you to be great.
All right. I know this episode is for my listeners, but goodness, this thing just got me too. Sheesh. This thing just got me too. Because you always go from faith to faith and glory to glory.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't go to your next if you just stuck in your now. That's the one thing that you cannot. If you, like he said, it's not always being comfortable in the positive, but sometimes you get so comfortable in the negative because it's just become your norm that you don't expect anything more for yourself. And so thank you so much again, Mr. Stewart. That's what I said. I don't know what to call you. Do I call you coach? Like you call him coach, call him principal, call him superintendent, call him COO. No, I like to call you Dr. Stewart because that's coming real soon. That's coming real soon. But I appreciate you so much. We got to have you again. If I do a segment, if I do another segment, maybe around like Black history, got to talk about raising Black men, raising Black kings, to be emotionally mature, to deal with that emotional intelligence. Because I can say that about my nephews. Y'all, my nephew's so crazy. Shout out to my nephews. Y'all better watch, like, subscribe Auntie's page. Thank you. So again, thank you so much. Now, how can the people reach out to you if they want to connect with you on social media?
Definitely, you can reach me at André Stewart on Facebook.
Okay.
On Instagram, it's Coach. What is it?
252
252 Stu. Yeah, Coach
Yeah.
252 Stu on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so those are the two main social medias that I use today. And they can always, if when in doubt, you can always just drop me an email.
There we go.
That's it.
All right. Well, again, thank you for joining us today on the 41st episode of the Leaders Lab podcast. And listen, don't forget, viewers, that you can also connect with me on social media. You can find me anywhere and everywhere at Dr. Charity TV, and that on Facebook it is at Dr. Charity TV page. And if you have any questions or you would like to be a guest on the podcast, you can send us an email at info@Dr. Charity TV. Listen, this has been it's been an episode full of wisdom and inspiration. And I don't want you to stop there. So make sure that you like, subscribe, you share this. You never know who you are connected to that needs motivation, that needs to hear the story of various leaders that we have on this podcast. So I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to episode of the Leaders Lab podcast. And I'll see you guys next week in the lab.
Thank you for listening to the Leaders Lab podcast. Visit our website at www.drcharitytv.com.